Hi, welcome to In the Cool of the Day, and today's segment is Keeping It Real with Donna and David Burks. Today we're going to be speaking with a dynamic leader in the DC metro community. She's an inspirational speaker, corporate trainer, adjunct professor, founding pastor, and CEO of her nonprofit OVJ Empowers. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Miss Olga Johnson to the show.
Thank you, Donna and David.
Welcome.
Thank you, so good to be here.
Well, one of the reasons we wanted to have you on our show today, Olga, is because I know in your personal walk that you live a faith-based life, and you've had many experiences in life that has led you to that. But before we get started in talking about that and sharing how it will be important to our audience, I wanted you to tell a little bit about who you are.
That's a good question. That wasn't in the list of questions, Donna. How I would describe me really is just African-American woman who loves the Lord and chooses to follow God in worshiping Him as a Christian. I believe in walking in truth, and whatever God says to do, I know that I'm supposed to do it, and I think that pretty much sums it up for me.
Well, so from your experiences, when I look over the various summaries on your pages and your websites, and I see that you were a business owner, or you are a business owner now with the nonprofit, but before that, you were not. So what made you take that leap of faith to become a business owner? Because I know a lot of people, that's scary to do that.
Well, you know, I didn't have much of a choice. I remember just kind of crying out to God, what is my purpose? Why am I here? I believe that, you know, we all have an assignment in the earth, and I feel that if I'm not fulfilling my assignment, then why am I encumbering the ground? There's a scripture that speaks to that. So, okay, God, what am I supposed to be doing? I don't believe that I'm supposed to be in this wonderful as it was, government job at the Prince George's County Department of Corrections. What do you really have for me to do? And after much prayer and crying out to God of, you know, how do I do what I believe is on the inside of me, that you've placed on the inside of me, that is longing to come out? How do I get that done? And so one night he actually gave it to me while I was sleeping. He dictated the letter of resignation, and so while cognitively I could say, how in the world am I going to do this? Quit my job? What? But after he gave me my instructions, it was clear. So there was no debate, no fear, just obey.
Wow.
Yeah.
You know, and I think a lot of people, where they struggle with something like that is, how do I know that that's really from God, and how do I know it's not my thoughts or my desires that I want to do that? And how did you seek confirmation? Because that's pretty scary to say, I'm leaving my job.
Absolutely. I tell you, one of the things that helped me is just coming along in ministry and as a part of my preparation. I remember witnessing an ordination once where someone said that they knew they were called because of all the things that someone else had said to them. And right then I decided, I said, God, I don't ever want an assignment from you where other people have told me this is my assignment. I want to hear you clearly. I don't want to ever preach a message because someone else said, this is what God is saying you should say. Lord, you know how to talk to your children. I want it straight up. Give it to me. And so he did. And I certainly would not recommend that anyone leave their job without getting clear instructions from God. Yeah.
So when that happened, what was the next step? How did that work? Did you just go straight into a nonprofit and I'm going to open up this and run with it? What did you do?
Well, for me, it was easy to the extent that coming from a correctional environment, I saw the souls that were in confines, if you will, in a jail setting. And at the Prince George's County Department of Corrections, we also have youth. And I knew that many of them needed help, but on the front end. Very often money is thrown into re-entry. Well, what about prevention? And so it was simple. It was a matter of, God said work on the church and do programs in the community. And so then once I got out, again, seeking him, all right, how do I do that? Then I began to do the research on developing a nonprofit versus a for-profit. But I literally did not do anything until I was no longer an employee of the government.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about your nonprofit. What are you working on right now?
Oh, my nonprofit, I love it. The Empowerment Institute. Right now we are working on empowering youth. First of all, we do workforce development for youth and young adults.
Okay.
And we do workforce development a little differently. We don't do the hard skills. We actually work with their minds. We do behavioral therapy, we do customer service training. We give them, because the children that we work with, or the youth actually, they like to be called, and young adults that we work with are primarily African American. And so we also introduce them to their culture and a bit of their heritage, understanding that now youth need to know a little bit more than what we've been giving them. Many of them don't even understand their history. So we give them that information to empower them, so once they obtain employment, now they're mentally capable to retain and seek higher heights because their brain is functioning properly, if you will.
That's great.
That is so true, because everything really starts with that, and everything starts with your mind,
Yeah.
the power of the mind. And when you go back and you look through Scripture, and how much does God actually talk about in the Scriptures? What you think about what we think constantly, because we become what we think, and a lot of times, and it has to be reprogrammed in a sense.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, no, go.
I feel very passionately about this. The Apostle Paul even said, brethren, I beseech you by the mercies of God to present your bodies a living sacrifice, holy and acceptable unto God, which is our reasonable service. And then he says, he tells us not to be conformed to the world, but to be transformed by the renewing of the mind.
Exactly.
And so without the renewal of the mind, transformation is not going to take place.
Exactly.
Yeah.
That is
Amen
very
to
good.
that.
And I really, and I'm sure the work is not just, besides just being a passion, it's very rewarding, though, to be able to see that transformation and those changes that come back through the youth. I used to do youth ministry when I was back in the day a little bit, and it was pretty awesome to be able to see the changes in the youth as you work with them.
Oh, I love it. I love it. Recently, just to share a quick story, I was at a high school. We were interviewing for the summer program that we're starting with the youth. And I ran into one of our former participants, and she was on the parking lot, and I was on the parking lot. It was just such a moment of reunion. But again, to know that you're making a difference in someone's life, there's just no price that you can place on that.
No, that is important. So let's talk a little bit about your faith walk. Because I know when you had to transition from your job to the nonprofit, that was a faith walk, and actually everything. As you go along every day, and what we do really is a faith walk. But it's to the extent that we activate our faith and we walk in that faith that is the difference, I think, in many people's lives. So tell us a little bit about your faith walk. I know you've actually commented that, and you said, I live by faith, or I walk by faith. So tell us a little bit what that really means to you.
Well, Donna, that's real for me. It's not just words in a book that we call the Holy Bible. It's how I live. I left the Department of Corrections in December of 2005, time served.
Paroled,
Paroled, if you will. And so that's been almost 10 years.
Wow.
And without a plan, if you will. And it reminds me of the Israelites when they were released, if you will. And they had to leave before it was even time for the bread to rise. But they were on their way to a place. They had been praying about it, and a deliverer came. And so they went in faith through the promised land to get to Canaan land. And so for me, living by faith means that even though there have been some growth opportunities, such as I suffered a tragedy, my youngest son in 2012 went to heaven by It was a very tragic accident, actually. And so there's been some wilderness experiences, but the promise is sure. And so I look at the promise. I don't focus on the process. And when the process gets a little bit, challenging, I focus on the promise some more. Like David, I encourage myself in the Lord.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
And you actually are standing ready to receive. So when you're focusing on the promise, you're always ready and you have your hands open. And it's like, whatever you want me to do, Lord, I'm here to do it for you.
And Donna, before you ask me the next question, for those that are listening, I don't want to seem cavalier, like it's the easiest thing in the world, because it's not, And, but in the promised land, that the place flowing with milk and honey, before you get to that place flowing with milk and honey, in the wilderness, you have to endure certain tests. Yep. But you're also assured that your feet won't swell. That's what the scripture says. So you won't, your shoes won't get too small, your clothes won't wear out. That God will give you the manna that you need, that you'll be able to survive in the wilderness. But it is a place of survival. It is not a place that you want to live. So I just want to bring that out, because people see you and they think, oh, wow, she's got it made. But they don't know the story.
Exactly.
And they don't know the price that you've paid in order to be in the land flowing with milk and honey.
That's true. It's kind of like when they say testimony. You can't have a testimony, right, without a test.
Absolutely.
Nothing comes easy. And everything that we go through in life is to help us or to help somebody else in the next phase.
Absolutely.
It's not just for us. So it's just a matter of weathering that storm, getting through that piece so that you can then go forth and bring about the message you need to bring.
Absolutely.
See, and that's very cool. And I'm excited because today you're bringing a good message, right, that people need to hear.
Yeah.
Because, with the way that things are, with prices going up, a lot of people getting laid off of jobs, there's so many things going on in our community, even up here in the DC metro, that sometimes I think people really wonder and they lose that faith, like, when is it my turn? How much longer? It's been a year now, I don't have a job. How much longer is it going to take? So go ahead.
Well, I just want to say that the journey of 1,000 miles, it's been said, begins with the first step. And the first step has to be a step of obedience. There's a song out that I used to listen to all the time, and the songwriter talks about saying yes to God. And very often when we say yes to God, we don't know what that's going to entail. But it does require obedience. He said, if you're willing and obedient, then you'll eat the good or the fat of the land. And so you begin with being obedient to those first instructions. And then after you're obedient to those first instructions, then God sees where he can trust you with even more. And then as he begins to trust you, as he begins to trust you with more, then you see your purpose being fulfilled. Why would I tell a 6-year-old to go out and drive a car who has not yet matriculated to the point where they are capable of driving a car? I'm not going to give them the license. I'm not going to give them the keys. I'm certainly not going to buy the car. So it's a progressive walk, and it begins with being obedient to the very first set of instructions.
And what you were saying there, it reminds me, being obedient and being aware, I guess, it comes back to faith. It comes back to that active versus passive faith.
Yes.
So many people are sitting there. It's that joke that they always talk about, the helicopter on the roof, it's flooding, right? And you're waiting for the helicopter to come, and God's like, and you're like, God, why don't you save me? And the helicopter comes, no, I don't want to take it because God's going to save me. And then eventually he says, I sent you a boat and I sent you a helicopter, and when are you going to get on?
Right.
When are you going to take this? So a lot of people sit and wait, and they don't see that they have to take that step. Like you were saying, you got to be obedient. You got to take the first step, and then God will show you what the next step is. But you can't just sit there and expect that everything's going to come to you, right? So.
And I guess one other thing that I'd like to add to that is the testing that I receive now is the testing of the heart. So say I have the works. I'm obedient and I'm doing what God has asked me to do. but where's my heart?
In doing it.
In doing it.
True.
Am I really in a place where I'm really trusting God, or, I have a good attitude about it? Or has it become perfunctory? And I'm just doing it because he said do it. And so that is another critical component. Create in me a clean heart, Lord, and renew the right spirit within me. So as I'm doing these things, not only am I doing them because you told me to do them, but I'm enjoying the journey.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And that opens up more opportunity, and that allows you to live a potential-filled life in the sense that we all have a purpose and we all have a dream. And that dream may be delayed.
Yes.
It may be deferred at a point in time, but it's still there.
Yes.
But if we are not going forth, we're not taking that action, and we're not enjoying the journey, then we're not going to reach our full potential.
Yeah.
And then what do you do at that point? Then you start to become unsettled on the inside. You start to, because subconsciously and spiritually, your spirit knows that you're not achieving that full potential. There's a seed that needs to grow, and so that we need to walk forth in achieving that. So, I think that's good. It's so true. The whole thing of what you guys are doing with the mind, with the youth, and then moving forward, it all connects. It all connects with that. Do you guys get to keep the youth for a good amount of time?
Keep them like take them home.
I know, it's like, I know, you're so cute. Don't leave the program.
I like to have fun.
How long do you get to stay connected with them after they come through?
Well, we actually make sure that we stay connected with them for a year. They're there for a summer, but we generally stay connected for about a year. But for most of them, that span of time has increased to more than a year. Now we're in a different area from where we started out, but interesting you should ask that. I just spoke with a parent and I guess it was last night, and we would love for that parent and her daughter to work with us in the new neighborhood that we're in. So yeah, it could be a long-standing relationship if they so desire.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Well,
so cool.
You didn't mention that you have another nonprofit effort that you're working. You have a green effort going on, right?
That's exactly correct.
Tell me a little bit about that.
Well, Donna, that's been the new thing for me, actually. I didn't know anything about going green before, and now all of a sudden I'm thrust into it. We did receive a grant, and it afforded us the opportunity to partner with a business owner where a rain garden is going to be constructed on their property. So our youth are going to work with them in making sure that the community is aware of environmental matters.
Wow.
And it's a great opportunity because for one, I didn't know that, and it just makes sense. We come through, we chop down trees, and we lay the asphalt and construct buildings, but where does the rainwater go?
Exactly.
So I'm learning more about that, and it's important. It really is.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's great. David, I don't want to leave you out here, so it's like, close you out. We've been so engrossed. I don't want to leave you out of the conversation. Anything you want to say?
No, not yet.
Okay, awesome.
You guys are doing really good.
So I know you also founded a ministry. You're a founding pastor.
Yes.
Okay, so tell me a little bit about that, the ministry that you have, and that you've been a spiritual mentor to many.
You see that?
Your mama all the way around, you know that, right? It's like with the youth and with the ministry.
And you see that because that was quite a journey. Oh my gosh. I can remember when I accepted the call to ministry. And in my faith tradition, women were not accepted in the pulpit. And that still goes on in some places. And so I thought, God, I'm teaching. What are you talking about? Preach. What? I don't get it. But I finally accepted the call. How long can you run from God, right? Your arms are too short to box with Him. And then after accepting the call and serving in ministry, I realized that there was a pastoral anointing on my life. and shared that with my pastor at the time, and literally had to go through a church planting assessment to see if I had the goods, so to speak, to be a church planter. And I remember leaving that as a single preacher, if you will, saying, "Oh, they'll never pick me. They'll pick someone that's married and that fits the standard mold, if you will." And I remember going into the chapel and just literally weeping and just saying, "God, if they never pick me, that's okay. I know you called me to do this. And I'll stand on a corner. I'll stand in the middle of the Baltimore-Washington Parkway and declare your word if necessary." So that's just kind of how it began. And then when I finally got the call, "You're it," I'm thinking, wow. But then as time went on, I realized that God had actually called me to initiate works. And I thought, man, that's, if he told me that at the beginning, I really would have been kicking and screaming. And so now I've accepted that, and we planted the first work and
That's awesome.
Waiting on the next assignment and just enjoying, doing what the Lord tells me to do in ministry.
That is great.
Yeah.
That is great. And I know as part of your ministry that you've also started adding some financial literacy to it, so that you're going to be getting those youth a little bit more knowledgeable about finances as we're going forward too. So I think that's very important because we see that so much. We see so much when the youth come out and they're getting credit cards right out of high school, and they're going into college. You see that people are in college and then they're spending their money, then they go into the workforce and nobody educates them there. You get there and they say, "Hey, sign up for this plan." So I think that's so important that you're able to bring financial literacy to the youth and to the community. And it seems like you're involved in a lot of different areas, a lot of the important aspects of a community. I mean, going green, right? You're doing that, working with the youth, financial literacy. What do you not do?
I know.
And
it's so
how do
funny.
you find the time to do it all?
I used to think the Proverbs 31 woman was a fictional person, but now I'm listening to you and I'm thinking, wow. But, I listened a little bit to excerpts from the message today in the eulogy for Pastor Pinckney in South Carolina. And someone made the comment about how the AME Church was founded on the principle of people understanding the need to have not only a ministry inside the four walls, but also very engaged in community. And when I heard that, it helped with my identity of the work that God has given me to do. Although To Heal a Life-Changing Ministries is non-denominational, and the Empowerment Institute is a nonprofit, OVJ Empowers is its own LLC, but I fit that pattern, I fit that mold, if you will. And so how I find time to do it is simply, it's my assignment. It's what God has given me to do. I believe in creating generational wealth. I'm tired of seeing the dearth that's taking place. I go into places where it's very painful to see the thinking that takes place that is the reason behind, in many instances, why we are where we are. There are some real big issues that our nation has got to tackle. There are some real big issues that reflect the fact that our priorities are out of order. And it saddens me. It saddens me. And so I'm hopeful that while all cannot be saved, at least many will be saved. Many will be.
And it's never too late. It's never too late for somebody to learn, when it comes about their financial situation, because again, that goes back to your potential. I thought about that one time when I was thinking about it. I said, Lord, if I'm not doing everything that I'm supposed to be doing, then I'm not living up to my full potential. So I'm cheating you. So I'm cheating God. And that's the same even with finances. If you don't have your finances in order and you're not doing what you need to do, then you're cheating yourself and you're cheating the potential that you could have, because you can do more with more, right?
Yes, yes.
And so it's
yes.
changing that whole mentality, changing the poverty mentality. And so I think that's very important what you're doing out there as well.
I think learning the secrets about money provides us the opportunity to share with people a way to create generational wealth.
Yep.
And once we teach them, you could take a person, give them a meal, and or give them give them a plate, give them a fish, they can eat a meal.
Yep.
But if you show them how to fish,
Yes.
they can eat for a lifetime.
Exactly.
Definitely.
Exactly. And so since you've served up dinner now, we're gonna take that, and I'm gonna go back
Love
to
it.
the audience now, and I think what I will say is that I hope you guys enjoy eating that word. Okay, so that what we've talked about today, I hope that it's something that you can take back into your life, and that you can put this word to use. And I also hope that you will look at how you're walking in faith, and that you can make sure that you're walking daily in your faith walk, doing what you need to do, and live a potential-filled life. So thank you so much for joining us today, and thank you, Miss Olga Johnson, for being with us.
Thank you, Donna.
So-
Thank you, David.
Thank you
Yeah.
so much for being here.
Yeah,
we
and-
really
Thank you.
appreciate your presence.
Thank you for
Thank
being here. And we hope to see you next time. And remember, until then, keep it real.